Cristiano Ronaldo, the greatest name in football to many, the true king, one of the best players to ever exist, leader, champion, global icon, an athlete who conquered the world's biggest championships and wrote his name into the history of the sport. This is episode 5 of a series that tells the entire life of Cristiano Ronaldo, his goals, his achievements, his sacrifices, his challenges, and the path that transformed an ordinary boy into a world football legend. Before the records, before the titles, and before becoming the greatest goal scorer in history, he went through trials, doubts, and decisive moments. And in today's episode, we will see the final chapter of Cristiano at Sporting and his transfer to Alex Ferguson's Manchester United. In previous episodes, we followed his origins on Madeira Island, his simple childhood, then his arrival at Sporting Clube de Portugal until his professional debut directly in the Champions League, facing Inter Milan, until the moment of his first 2 memorable goals. After that magical night at Alvalade against Moreirense, Cristiano Ronaldo stopped being a promise to become a national obsession. But professional football does not forgive those who live off just one game. Cristiano played a few more games, but his next goal happened on October 26, 2002, at the feared Estadio de Bessa. Sporting faced Boavista, a team known for its aggressiveness and iron defense. Ronaldo started on the bench. On this date, the Sporting legend Mario Jardel had already returned to play for Sporting, playing an excellent match, converting a penalty goal. Sporting started winning the game. However, after a failure of the defense, the game tied. With only 9 minutes left to end the game, Laszlo Belloni subbed him on in place of Quaresma. The game was tied. The clock was running against Sporting. In a quick counterattack, Cristiano received the ball at speed along the wing and advanced against the opponent's goal. But his marker committed a foul, which resulted in a dangerous play for Sporting. When the game was already at 88 minutes, Cristiano received an assist from Carlos Martins, where he was in a great position, kicked with his right foot into the bottom right corner of the goalkeeper, who had no chance. There, Cristiano marked his 3rd goal in his career, and simply deciding a game where he entered only at the end, guaranteeing the 3 points for the team. After a few games, his hunger for goals extended to the Portuguese Cup. On November 24, 2002, against Estoril, Sporting won 4-1, and Cristiano left his mark again. He received the ball inside the area in a clumsy way, coming from a cross, got rid of the marking with a short and explosive movement. The ball hit his chest and went into the goal, sealing the rout. It was his 4th official goal. Less than a month later, on December 18, 2002, Sporting massacred Oliveira do Hospital 8-1. On that rainy afternoon, Ronaldo scored his 5th and final official goal in the green and white jersey. It was a goal that demonstrated his tactical evolution. He was no longer just looking for the dribble, but rather for positioning. He was turning into a predator. Behind the scenes at Alcochete, this transformation had a secret mentor, Mario Jardel. The Brazilian, one of the greatest headers in history, spent hours with Cristiano after official training sessions. Jardel taught him the technique of attacking the ball at the highest point, the coordination between the jump and the strength of the neck. Cristiano was a sponge. He absorbed every detail, every body movement that Jardel showed him, silently molding the superhuman jump that the world would come to applaud years later. Meanwhile, the offices of Alvalade became the center of a European diplomatic war. After his goals, the name of Cristiano Ronaldo became a fever that crossed the borders of Portugal. The boy from Madeira was no longer just a promise, he was a financial asset in dispute by the biggest sharks on the continent. But looking back, the history of these negotiations seems more like a comedy of errors committed by sports directors who today would certainly prefer to delete these records from their archives. The first to come close was Arsenal. Arsene Wenger, known for his clinical eye for young talent, invited Cristiano and Donna Dolores to London in November 2002. Cristiano visited the London Colney facilities, dined with Wenger, and was dazzled by shaking hands with Thierry Henry. Wenger was so sure of the signing that he already had a shirt with Ronaldo's name and the number 9 ready to be printed. The deal was closed for £8 million, but Arsenal, who were counting pennies to build their new stadium, committed the fatal error of trying to save. For a difference of only £4 million, Wenger hesitated. He wanted to pay in installments. He wanted time. Today, Wenger describes this as the greatest regret of his life, and with reason. He traded the opportunity to have the greatest scorer in history for a saving of change that wouldn't pay for half of a current Gunners substitute. While Arsenal was doing grocery store math, Juventus thought they had won the race. Luciano Moggi, the strongman of Juventus, already had Cristiano in Turin for preliminary medical exams. The agreement was an exchange. Ronaldo would go to Italy, and the experienced Marcelo Salas would come to Sporting. Everything was signed. Only the yes of the Chilean was missing. But Salas, in a moment of personal brilliance, refused to move to Lisbon. He preferred to return to South America. Juventus, instead of opening the coffers and paying the market value, gave up on the deal because its pawn did not want to move. Imagine the faces of the Juventus directors years later, having to pay €100 million for the same player they could have had in 2002 in exchange for a striker at the end of his career. Liverpool also entered the comedy. Phil Thompson, assistant to Gerard Houllier, dined with Jorge Mendes in Lisbon and heard the price: £4 million to Sporting and a salary of £1 million a year for the boy. Houllier, concerned about not ruining the locker room with such a high salary for a 17-year-old, said no. Liverpool thought £1 million a year was too much for Cristiano Ronaldo. It is ironic to think that years later, Liverpool would spend fortunes on players who didn't even have half of Cristiano's talent, while watching their biggest rival be carried to the top by the boy they thought was too expensive. Even Joan Laporta's Barcelona had its chance. Mendes offered Cristiano for €17 million. Laporta's response? No, we already hired Ronaldinho and Quaresma. Choosing Ricardo Quaresma instead of Cristiano Ronaldo is like choosing a candle when you have the opportunity to buy the sun. Quaresma shone for moments, but Cristiano became the entire solar system. Making a parenthesis here, have you ever thought about Cristiano Ronaldo playing alongside Ronaldinho Gaucho, the Wizard, and later Lionel Messi? But thanks to Joan Laporta, who preferred Quaresma, we later had the greatest rivalry football has ever seen. And Lyon also tried its luck, offering the veteran Tony Virels in exchange for Ronaldo. Sporting, wisely, didn't even bother to seriously respond to an offer that seemed like a bad joke. The day of August 6, 2003 was not just the date of a pre-season friendly. It was the day the axis of world football shifted from Lisbon to Manchester. The setting was the official inauguration of the new Estadio José Alvalade 21, an architectural jewel built for Euro 2004. Manchester United, at the time the greatest commercial and sporting power on the planet, was the honored guest. But what Sir Alex Ferguson didn't know was that he was not there to inaugurate a stadium, but to witness the birth of an empire. Cristiano's preparation for this game was marked by absolute confidence. He knew that United scouts were already following him, but this was his opportunity to show himself to the boss personally. He appeared on the field with blonde highlights, a look that shouted, "Look at me." But it was not just aesthetics. In the locker rooms before the initial whistle, his look was of predatory coldness. He was not intimidated by facing Rio Ferdinand, Roy Keane, or Ryan Giggs. He was hungry.
When the game started, the Alvalade Stadium was in trance with 30,000 fans, but the real show happened on the left corridor. The unlucky one of the night was John O'Shea. The Irish fullback, a solid and international defender, lived the greatest nightmare in the history of modern football. Cristiano didn't just dribble, he humiliated with purpose. There were step-overs executed at a speed that the cameras of the time could barely capture. He changed direction in impossible angles, stopping the ball and starting from 0 to 100 in the blink of an eye. In a memorable play, he left O'Shea so lost with a body balance that the fullback almost tripped over his own legs while Cristiano crossed with the outside of his foot. At halftime, the Manchester United locker room looked like a war hospital mixed with a comedy show. John O'Shea was sitting in a corner, head down, visibly dizzy. Rio Ferdinand tells that O'Shea needed an oxygen mask and that his heart rate was out of control. Mark Philpott, the United kit man, remembers Ferguson looking at his assistant and saying, "That kid, we have to take him." Meanwhile, in the Sporting locker room, the atmosphere was of shock. Sporting was winning 1-0 with a goal from Luis Felipe. In the second part, the massacre continued. João Pinto scored 2 more goals, sealing the historic result of 3-1 for Sporting. Cristiano didn't score, but he was the man of the match, the maestro who dismantled the most expensive defense in England. As soon as the referee blew the whistle for the end, Ferguson did not go to the team bus. He gave a clear order: no one leaves this stadium until we talk to the kid and George Mendes. The negotiation did not happen in luxury hotels. It happened right there in the bowels of Alvalade, in a small and dimly lit room. Ferguson sat down with Cristiano and was direct. "I don't want you for next year. I want you now. You will fly with me to Manchester tomorrow." Sporting still tried to negotiate his stay for another season on loan, but Ferguson was relentless. "If he stays here another week, Real Madrid or Chelsea will take him. He comes with me now." The value was closed at £12.24 million, a value that for the time seemed high for a youngster, but today seems like the biggest heist in the history of football. While the directors of Arsenal and Liverpool were probably sleeping or trying to save a few bucks on phone bills, Ferguson was signing Ronaldo's destiny. The end of this story is worthy of a movie. Cristiano embarked for Manchester with only a carry-on bag, thinking he was just going to sign and return. Upon arriving at Old Trafford, the boy asked for the shirt 28, his safety number at Sporting. Ferguson, with the vision that all the other directors in Europe lacked, denied the request. "No, you will wear the 7, sentenced the Scotsman. Handing the 7 to an 18-year-old was an act of almost sacred courage. It was the shirt of George Best, Eric Cantona, and David Beckham. Ferguson was not just giving him a number, he was giving him a destiny. He was saying that Cristiano was not a substitute, but the successor of the gods. At that moment, in the shadows of Sir Alex's office, the air became heavy. Wearing the 7 at United is carrying the weight of Old Trafford on your back. Many would have trembled, but Cristiano accepted the challenge. What no one knew on that rainy afternoon was that that number would stop being just a digit to become a global brand, the birth of CR7. While the clubs that rejected him watched from afar, the shirt 7 began to shine with its own light. Ferguson didn't give him a shirt, he gave him the keys to immortality. The Prince of the Kingdom of the Lion had crossed the ocean to begin his conquest as the Emperor of world football. Thus, with a small carry-on bag and the weight of a secular heritage on his shoulders, Cristiano Ronaldo left the green and white of Alvalade behind to dive into the intense red of Old Trafford. The dribbling kid, whom the giants of Europe judged to be too expensive or too green, now carried on his chest the number that belonged to the gods of English football. The irony of fate was sealed. While directors in London, Turin, and Liverpool tried to explain to their fans how they let the greatest talent of the generation slip away for a matter of change, Sir Alex Ferguson was already preparing the ground for the greatest metamorphosis in the history of the sport. Cristiano didn't arrive in Manchester just to be another one. He arrived to inherit a throne. The Prince of Lisbon was about to discover that the theater of dreams was an implacable stage, where raw talent would be polished with blood, sweat, and an almost superhuman discipline. But what would be the first contact with the most physical football in the world? How would the locker room of giants like Roy Keane and Rio Ferdinand react to the arrival of a teenager full of tricks and confidence? In the next episode, we will enter Old Trafford to witness the first steps of Cristiano Ronaldo at Manchester United. We will see the legendary debut against Bolton, which left the world in shock, and the beginning of the physical and mental transformation that gave birth to the winning machine we all know. The legend has only just begun. Thank you for following Episode 5. If you want to see how the King conquered England, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss Episode 6. Your journey to know every detail of CR7's life continues here. See you next time.